Hi. So Trump said some things about Sweden. Swedish media didn't like it. And now Fox News have done a follow-up where they interview a journalist from Sweden. So I thought we could go over it and take a look at a few irregularities there.
For more on the Swedish reaction, we're joined by Ann-Sofie Naslund. She's U.S. correspondent for Expressen. That's a Swedish newspaper, and we bet a good one.
Oh, really? That's the same newspaper that tried to blame me for a school massacre. I've made videos about this twice, one in English and one in Swedish. They hinted that my evil racist videos inspired the assailant. They also tried to point a finger at the amazing atheist. And this is one of the biggest newspapers in all of Sweden. So what does this say about Sweden and its media? Then again, I do recall Fox News kinda hinting that the Columbine massacre was Marilyn Manson's fault, so maybe you really would like this newspaper.
Right now, the situation in Sweden is that the crime rate is actually decreasing. If you look at the overall numbers and what has been going on for in a long term, the numbers are definitely going down. It's decreasing.
No. Okay, so this is a tricky part, and it confuses a lot of people. The violence has gone down, and it has also gone up. People dying from violence has been going down since the 90s, whereas attempted murders have been going up. This is usually explained in part due to emergency medical services becoming better at saving people's lives. Although I do want to point out that for the past 10 years or so, attempted murders have been stable. And it's the same thing with lethal violence. It's been going both down and up, hovering around approximately the same number. So depending on what year you're comparing another year to, you can claim both opposites. A person could say that violence is going down and up and be correct at the same time. It depends on what time frame they use. But in any case, from 2014 and 2015, lethal violence increased with 29%, meaning there were 112 murders in 2015. As far as I know, the stats for 2016 aren't out yet. They usually come out by spring, so whether or not Ami Horowitz is correct really is too soon to say. However, an article by Aftonbladet in January of 2017 indicated that murders are increasing for the first time in 25 years. An expert they interviewed claimed that the trend is breaking. Keep in mind this is their personal estimation, and we have yet to see the official statistics from the Crime Council. Now, there's been a decrease in lethal violence pertaining to alcohol use, close relationships, and towards children. But there's been an increase in lethal violence related to illegal guns and criminal conflicts, and square-offs have moved out into the streets. It's now more common that perpetrator and victim don't know each other, and in 9 years, gun violence has increased by 84%. One example of this is the guy who, during a conflict with another criminal, fired a submachine gun in front of a school. Children were running away scared. This isn't exactly the typical thing that you'd see in Sweden 20 years ago. Also, do note the following statistics from the correctional facility during 1997 to 2009. 47% of prisoners serving long-time sentences were born in Sweden and still Swedish citizens. The remaining 53% of prisoners serving long-time sentences have a foreign background. In short, the increasing violence poses the biggest threat towards other immigrants living in these rough neighborhoods, not upper middle-class Swedish people. Which might be a reason to why Swedes insist on Sweden being safer than ever. If you live in an all-white neighborhood, you probably can't recognize yourself in these statistics.
If I were at a party of educated people and said, you know, immigrants are committing a lot of crime, so they're much more likely to commit crime than a Swedish-born person, which is true, by the way. How would that go over? Would people say, that's true, or what are the statistics, or would they say, how dare you say that?
It's the latter. It's the latter.
Actually, one of the crimes that has been decreased the most during last year, that was rape.
Sex crimes have doubled since 2012. I'd also like to mention that women's comfortability with reporting crime is actually going down.
So if you look at rape in a wider historical perspective, or like 10 years or 15 years, there are some periods of time when it's gone up because the definition of rape and sexual assault in Sweden has been wider. If you look at your numbers, I'm not sure exactly what numbers you are, but that could be one of the reasons why it's now look like looks like it's been more of them when it's actually
Because
just
the definition, right? I mean, that may be true.
That's incredibly dumb. We didn't change the definition of rape a year ago. So it's kind of interesting that she keeps bringing that argument up, don't you think? When it comes to rape, the latest reports from 2005 show that immigrants are 5.5 times more likely to be registered as suspects of rape. When you have an overrepresentation that large, rape is going to go up when that part of the population grows as well. Most immigrants don't rape, but they don't have to for the number to grow by a lot when the overrepresentation is that large.
Also, another side of that is when they ask women if they have ever been sexually assaulted or raped, that number actually rises a little bit. And one of the reasons for that was that maybe that was things that happened way, many years ago. And now they realize, oh, hang on, that maybe was a rape. And now they're saying, yeah, that happened to me. But the numbers, women reporting rape and sexual assault, that has not gone up.
That's a really desperate excuse.
In 2015, the police started to put a special code for crimes that was related to a lot of people coming in as refugees.
Right, to the new wave of refugees.
And what we've seen so far, I mean, this has just been a short time.
Right.
It's just 1% of the reported crimes that has anything to do with refugees.
With those refugees.
Yeah.
Your source is a shitty mainstream newspaper that's known for lying about immigration. Once they claim that Sweden's immigration is so profitable that we're making 900 billion in profit, which, when you look into the numbers, just isn't true. This report conflated refugee immigration with work immigration. So that's just one of the mistakes they did when they assumed the so-called profit. Now, this paper, Dagens Nyheter, claimed that only 1% of refugees do any crime. Well, that's not really true. We're talking about the police so-called storm register, which is basically a register of all reported events, not only pertaining to crime, but also wanted people, mentally ill, cats that ran away, missing animals, missing bikes, lost and found, help service, transporting someone. Basically, 90% of storm reports aren't about serious crime and aren't about the type of stuff that the media usually reports from refugee asylum centers. So trying to use an article based on the storm register is just deceptive. It doesn't give an accurate image.
So there's a book called Mass Challenge, which is written by this Kurdish economist, and I think it's one of the biggest selling books in Sweden. The Carol Library in Stockholm, which is a real library, I looked it up, refused to put this book on the racks because, and I'm quoting now the librarian, library collections ought to be characterized by diversity and pluralism. They're basically just saying we're not going to let people read the book because we disagree with it.
I don't know about why and if that's true that they don't have that book, sorry.
Yeah, it is true. Massutmaning, or Mass Challenge, by Tino Sanandaji, is a new book. He's a doctor in national economy. The book is in Swedish, but he's currently working on an English translation, so I'd advise you to keep an eye out on that. He's also been interviewed by Dave Rubin, so if you want to learn more about the Swedish disaster from an economist point of view, I really recommend this interview. It's a great watch. And he basically wrote a book about the immigration policy or immigration disaster in Sweden and how to make it better. So it's not really an opinion piece or a debate book as much as it is, here's the facts and I got some ideas on how to improve things. And this library refused to take his book in, but at the same time they allowed Mein Kampf. So yeah.
Rape and sexual assault, that has not gone up.
Okay. I'm not sure I fully understand, but I appreciate the perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I gotta tell you, Tucker, you really know how to pick 'em. But in a way, this woman is a great representative of the Swedish perspective, because this is how clueless they are. At least the establishment. After this, Tucker brings on a Swedish ambassador who's every bit as clueless as this woman, if not more. So I'm not even gonna show that, because it's just not rewarding for anyone. Oh, and by the way, I discovered something. It turns out that something actually did happen last night in Sweden that Trump was referring to. On February 17th, a gold store in Sweden got robbed by 3 men wielding Kalashnikovs. They rammed a car into the store and pulled out automatic weapons. It looked like a scene from Grand Theft Auto, for Christ's sake. But since it happened in an immigrant-dominated ghetto, nobody cared. Here's a list of incidents that has occurred in Malmö this year alone. February 12th, a man in his 20s shot in his head outside of a restaurant. Nobody was arrested. February 8th, a janitor shoveling snow got shot in a residential area. He still has life-threatening injuries, and a 15-year-old has been arrested. 21st of January, 18-year-old man shot multiple times and injured severely. The fact that he carried a bulletproof vest probably saved his life. No suspect arrested. January 12th, 16-year-old boy shot to death at a bus stop in Rosengård. He died immediately. Nobody has been arrested. It's just incomprehensibly ridiculous that the media would get hooked up on a specific date and use that to mock Trump when the surrounding days have been insane. And just a few hours after the media's mockery of Trump, a violent riot broke out in the notorious ghetto Rinkeby. 7 to 8 cars were set on fire, police were showered with rocks, and a local shop owner got beaten up when he interrupted a robbery in his store. It's entirely possible to be a critic of Trump and still pay attention to facts and accurate depictions of reality. What the media is doing isn't just childish, but it also undermines the serious problems that Sweden is facing. And these are problems in which immigrants often make out the biggest victims. Because who do you think gets to live in these rough neighborhoods? Once again, we cannot change the negatives unless we highlight the negatives.